Here in the United States, we're one of the most overfed yet undernourished populations on the planet. We are not moving. We are not feeding our bodies what they really, really need in order to keep basic tissues intact. Our health, our mobility, our longevity, and our lifestyle are impacted negatively. So I'm a bit on a mission to help women understand what is happening in their own bodies so they can make the choices that will give them a better lifestyle.
That's Laurie Martin. In today's episode of Living Big Mindfully, Laurie and I are exploring protein. Laurie not only has an inspiring story, she is a wealth of information, and she's on a mission to inspire and support people to live longer, stronger, and healthier lives. You can't beat that, right? Laurie starts off by sharing a bit about her background, experience, and personal journey from a pretty major health diagnosis back to full health. And then we talk protein and why this is such an important topic. Learn about how much protein we actually need and why getting enough protein matters, especially as we age. And then we'll chat about why all protein is not created equally, the importance of amino acids and getting the balance right, and how to begin planning and looking at your plate a little bit differently. Throughout the show, Laurie shares lots of practical tips and strategies, including some delicious recipes and her 3 keys to living longer, stronger, and healthier. Then Laurie offers listeners some heartfelt sage advice, which I think we can all connect with. Because this is such an important topic and there is so much to learn, and we really want to get the word out to people, Laurie will be on again for a protein part 2, so stay tuned for that. As always, thank you for listening. I appreciate you. I appreciate your support. Check out the show notes for links and resources. And remember, if you're enjoying the content, please comment, review, and share the love. Here's the conversation. Hello, Laurie. How are you today?
Hello, I'm well. It's good to see you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah, I am so excited today about this conversation. I think it's going to be super helpful, not only for me, but for our listeners. I think it's just going to blow the socks off. We are going to talk about protein today, and Laurie is coming to us, and she's going to give us all the info we need. And we've actually talked about doing several, because there's so much information, so much we need to know. We're actually talking about doing several, like a couple of episodes. So this is going to be like episode 1, if you like. We're going to get the basics from Laurie today. So tell me, Laurie, a little bit about you and your journey, and how did you find your way to be, this protein guru?
Ooh, I like that, a guru. Well, how did I get here? Life as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter of aging parents. Somehow I have this helper personality. I have always been in healthcare career-wise. And about 15 years ago, when my kids were younger, I myself started noticing my health was changing. I did not feel the same. Lots of energy, lots of things going on. I mean, the list was long. And in trying to figure out what was going on with me, that could be a whole nother episode, but eventually was handed a diagnosis and then all these prescriptions and told, we don't know why this happens. There's nothing you can do about it. These 5 prescriptions will make you feel better. Sorry. It's a lifelong thing. We're so sorry, but this is you. This is who you're going to be. And I am not someone who takes anything. I had no mistrust in medicine at that time. It just didn't, my gut said, I think there's more to this story. So I went home and I didn't fill the prescriptions, and I started, thank goodness for the internet, I started researching. And over a series of months and years, I took control of my own health without without conventional medicine, without prescriptions. And I feel great now. It has taken time. It has taken months, hours, and the numbers of hours I've completely lost track of. It became a mission because I knew if I could stay healthy, I could be a better mother, a better partner, a better daughter, better. Life was too short. I was in my 40s back then. And there was no way I wanted to become an old, frail, sickly person with young children, and I'm in my 40s. Because I couldn't imagine if I feel like this now, what's to come. So I just took it upon myself to change the variables that I could change. And that worked for me. And people noticed. My energy changed, my ability to do things changed, my demeanor changed. I re-engaged with life. And once people see a person who's not feeling well, they know I'm going to the doctor, they know I'm dealing with something, and then they see right before their eyes, I'm able to take a shower now and, maybe dry my hair, take care of myself, step into life again with energy and enthusiasm. So those that were in my life that were watching me knew something was different. So then start the questions, and people started coming to me with their own situations because, hey, you got better, Lori. How do I get, maybe there's something I can do. What do you know? And so I just decided at some point, and there was no hard, fast day, that I wanted to be able to help people who were trying to help themselves, but they just didn't know where to start. They didn't know where to look. And I had figured a few of those things out. So I eventually became certified as a health coach through Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is a year-long program. It's one of the first, it's one of the most respected. They have grown in, there's so many different ways a coach can be certified now. But that's always just the starting point. With certification comes the responsibility to stay curious. Eyes must always stay open, ears must always stay open, and that's who I am innately as a person. And so my coaching practice evolved. My health has continued to evolve, and about 5 years ago, roughly, protein landed in front of me. I don't remember specifically what I saw or heard, but I remember there being a moment where I thought, I need to look that up. Protein sounds more important than I was giving it credit for. And I dove into the function of protein as it relates to skeletal muscle. And where do you get the protein? How do you manipulate the protein? Why does skeletal muscle why is that important? And once I went down that rabbit hole, I'm still down there. I haven't come out. I understood at some point during this journey that protein directly impacts our skeletal muscle in specific ways that I was never taught in school. I understood that skeletal muscle has a huge impact on our immune health, our aging health, our health in every possible way. It is functional as an endocrine system, and it's the only part of our endocrine system that we have direct control over. And that makes us powerful. It gives us power over our own health. So that thought process is how I landed in this place of what I consider myself protein literate. The information is out there for anyone to go look for, but I think one of the big questions, or one of the big avenues I'm trying to open up, I'm trying to open the door so people know that is something to look into. So I'm trying to be that voice. I'm just trying to be that voice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what attracted me or caught my attention for you is reading one of your posts one day and just reading about protein and what it does. And what blew my mind was the amount, right? The amount of protein that you were advocating that people eat today. In my mind, I'm protein illiterate for sure. So in my mind, I'm thinking, how the heck is anyone going to eat that amount of protein? And I think I messaged you and said, hey, I want to have a conversation about protein. I want to learn about protein. And I think that's kind of how we connected. Now, if I remember, you also had a journey with your caring for your elderly father, right? And so tell us a little bit about that piece too, because I think it's really important.
Yes. So my father just turned 90 a week ago, and it has been 4 years. 4 years ago, he had a series of major strokes, and he actually did well with that situation, in that he had a very high level of healthy skeletal muscle. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't understand why that made such a difference for him. But I can also tie back to when I was not well myself in my 40s, and I would compare myself when I was speaking to physicians with my father, who was then, in his 70s and 80s. And I would say, look, I have a 75, 79, 80-year-old father who's running around playing lacrosse with the neighbor kids. And I feel like I can barely take a shower. Something's wrong. So I used him as a bit of a measuring stick. His energy, his vitality, his ability to do life independently as someone who at that time was in their mid-70s and not slowing down at all. Not at all. He was speeding up. He was living the dream. And so then he had this series of strokes, and he was fortunate. It did not affect his mobility very much. It affected his speech centers. He already had a little vascular dementia starting. He has a long history of head injuries, chemical exposures, some toxic trauma kinds of things. So the fact that he made it to 85 before anything monumental happened inside his brain is almost a miracle. But in caring for him, his physical therapy, his different practitioners that were seeing him, including the neurology and neuropsychology specialists, would always say, it is absolutely amazing that your father can still get around with the strength and the functionality that he has, which is a testament to how healthy he was going into this. If he had been frail going into those series of strokes, he would be in a wheelchair. He would probably need skilled nursing. And so even though he does live in memory care now, that is something that's where his best care happens. He's still able to participate in any activities. He still had, because he started with such a high level of, I believe, healthy skeletal muscle tissue, that even those assaults inside his brain happened, it was like he had a reserve. He built himself in such a great reserve that he is still, for somebody with as many cognitive deficits as he does have, he's still able to live a fairly enjoyable life. And, that's been important.
And what do you attribute that to? Do you attribute that to really healthy amounts of protein or an active lifestyle? What do you attribute that to? His vitality?
Three things for him. And I would say, and these, I list them, I speak about them in my bio on my social media pages and on my website as well. Number one, this might be a surprise for some people, but number one is not protein. It is attitude. Attitude, everything starts from believing that there's life to be lived. Attitude is the starting place for everything. And I believe that. That is my belief. I don't know if that's proven in fact anywhere, but that is what I believe. And that's what I saw in him. It never occurred to him that slowing down was an option. I don't think it ever occurred to him. I don't know that it was a conscious choice to be so vital. He just was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And he was physically active. So if you're starting from a place of, well, of course I can, and you pair that with constant commitment to doing something physical. I think he always felt his best when he was building something or climbing something or out and about in life. He loved to just leave the car in the garage and walk to wherever he lived in a place where he could walk to the store. He could walk to visit friends. He loved moving. So he was physically active. He came from a place of, well, of course I can. And then he had a long history of, meat and potatoes. I mean, if you want to talk about nutrition.
Yeah.
My observation growing up in the same house and he was my dad. So I know in my childhood, there was meat at every meal. So there was protein at every meal. I was raised in a family where you had to have sufficient, I don't know how to describe where the ideas were coming from, but it was just a fundamental meal rule in our household that we had meat at every meal. We didn't have an understanding of how much we needed, but nutrition paired with physical activity is how you trigger healthy muscle protein synthesis. These all go together. And he was, without thinking about it, he was doing all the right things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a really powerful story, and a great model, right? A great model for people. So let's dive in a minute. Let's talk about why protein matters. Why does it matter? What does it do? And why should every woman over 40 care about protein? Let's dive in and talk protein.
Wow. Okay, good. This is my favorite thing. So fundamentally, we are creatures built out of cells. And we are tissues, we are bone, we are muscle, we are ligaments, tendons, skin. Every tissue in our body requires protein for regeneration. So our body, without us knowing it, we are just constantly in a state of regeneration. All our life, every day. There is no day while we're alive that our body isn't renewing something. Protein is required for that to happen. And as we age, some of those systems become a little less efficient. So as we age, this is a time where we need more protein and higher quality protein, not less. We tend not to digest as efficiently as we age. Our stomach lining is no longer 20. I'm a 60-year-old woman. My digestion is pretty good. Sometimes I incorporate enzymes into my digestion because food is expensive, protein is valuable, and I want to assimilate every drop because my tissues need it. They need it. Somewhere around the age of 30, and this is just a normal human process, we start to lose a little bit of muscle if we're not actively pursuing to preserve it. So if we're not getting enough protein, if we're not active, we will start the natural beginning process of what's called sarcopenia, where our body kind of breaks down the muscle tissue we do have and assimilates the nutrients out of that muscle tissue and puts it elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So, and we have society has become more sedentary instead of more active. The more we move, the more we preserve the muscle we have. It's a little more complicated than that, but our sedentary lifestyle and our lack of nutrients because we have a lack of understanding of what our body needs nutrition-wise, that sarcopenic muscle wasting has begun to happen at younger ages, and it's become more accelerated. Here in the United States, we're one of the most overfed yet undernourished populations on the planet. So, we are not moving. We are not feeding our bodies what they really, really need in order to keep basic tissues intact. So our health, our mobility, our longevity, and our lifestyle are impacted negatively. So I'm a bit on a mission to help women understand what is happening in their own bodies so they can make the choices that will give them a better lifestyle.
Yeah. So you said so much there. So two things that stand out for me. You said you need more protein and we need higher quality. So let's talk about more. What does more look like? Because like I said, I am protein ignorant, and I had this impression that that if you eat too much protein, it's just going to turn into fat. But I'm understanding for you that's probably not the case. So what is more? What should what I'm sure it's different for everybody, but what should we be aiming for kind of protein per day?
Well, I'll back up a little bit further and say that when I say we need more, I'm referring to the fallacy thinking that I had for many years, that if you had maybe 10 grams of protein at every meal, that was good enough. I had some protein. I had an egg. Maybe I had two. If you have 2 eggs, that's roughly 12 grams of protein at breakfast, and that should be great with your piece of toast. Or maybe there was a little protein in that toast. Bread, wheat has a certain amount of protein. It's not complete protein. But, there was this sort of pervasive thinking that if you have a little protein at breakfast, a little protein at lunch, a little protein at dinner, you're good. There was never a great discussion about, well, how much is enough? And it does vary person to person a little bit. But I'll tell you what my daily goals are. My daily goal, I'm not a very big person. I'm very short, pretty compact.
Okay.
And I'm roughly, I don't weigh myself. I have a bathroom scale in the house. We don't really use it. That's a whole nother story. I don't believe people should be obsessed with weighing themselves.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
That the scale is an antiquated thing. It's an antiquated way to measure your healthy body composition.
Absolutely. 100%.
But I'm roughly between 110, 115 pounds on a bathroom scale, imperial, not metric. So I try to get between 100 and 120 grams of protein per day. And I'm very specific about when I want to get it. So I try to get between 40 and 50 grams at breakfast, specifically. And then another 40 or 50 grams at my last meal of the day, dinner, specifically. And whatever I'm not planning for those 2 meals, I put in at lunch. So my midday meal isn't as protein heavy. I don't feel like it needs to be. And as far as, and I'll just back up, the reason I do that, so breakfast, we're waking up, I eat my last meal around 6 o'clock every night. I don't eat breakfast till about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. So that is more than 12 hours. I haven't put anything into my body. My body is used up and it's looking around for more proteins for regeneration and rebuilding whatever it needs for that day. So I make sure to give my body building blocks. There's no way to know if those 50 grams of protein are 100% assimilated. So I know I need at least 35 or 40, so I give myself 50.
Got it.
I'm looking to give my body building blocks. First thing, to give it a higher rate of metabolism, give it the building blocks it needs. And then I do the same thing at the end of the day. I want to finish my day giving my body the building blocks it needs. And I do that between, about 5:30, 6:30. I don't go to bed till 8:30 or 9. That gives me time to digest so that when I'm sleeping, I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
It's
so here's where my brain is. Okay. So here's where my brain is going. I'm thinking already. It's like, how the heck? What do you eat for breakfast for 40 or 50 grams? I don't know if I get that in a day. I mean, I'm serious. Like, what do you eat to get that amount of protein in a breakfast?
So I have a few different ways of doing it. I do openly admit that I use protein powder. I supplement, just like some people supplement vitamin C or vitamin D. Protein is so important to me that I will do a protein shake and then have eggs. I will do a protein shake and have steak. I also will eat a non-traditional breakfast. I will, if I have ground beef, I tend to I'll cook 2 or 3 pounds at a time, and I'll eat ground beef for breakfast. I happen to really like ground beef and raisins with a little dash of cinnamon. To me, that is delicious. I love it.
There's a tip for you. Ground beef and raisins with a sprinkle of cinnamon. Wow.
Yeah, that sweet savory to me I could eat that every single day.
Wow.
I could eat that every day.
Well, I'm super curious about that. So you supplement because it would be hard to get, I'm guessing it would be hard to get that much protein from food. Like, it's something that you could, I'm imagining like a massive steak, right? A massive steak would be what? I don't know. How much protein in a big fat steak? Well,
I'll take it the other direction. So in about there are about 24 grams of protein in about 3 ounces of beef.
Okay.
So 3 ounces isn't like a crazy amount. It's actually small.
Right.
So, and again, I'm looking at between 3 and 6 ounces. So if I have 6 ounces of beef, of steak for breakfast, which is definitely, that's kind of something we'll do on weekends. It's not every weekend, but we'll cook a bunch of steak on a Friday night, and then we have leftover for Saturday breakfast. For me, 6 ounces of steak is a pretty simple way of getting pretty close to 50 grams of protein.
Okay.
And if I don't feel like I'm getting, and it's not super calorific that way either. And I clearly eat animal protein. I have a preference for animal protein. It is complete protein with all the amino acids in all the optimized ratios. And that's a whole nother conversation. But protein is not this one thing that I had protein, it's good. There was protein in my bagel, I'm good.
Yeah.
All protein is not the same.
It isn't. And I am just so listeners know, I am a non-meat eater. I'm mostly plant-based. I'll eat some happy eggs now and again, and I'll throw some fish in there now and again, which my body really likes, probably because of the protein that it likes. So what about people like me, right? What about people like me that are just kind of plants and beans and rice and all that? What do people like me do to kind of again, get to these protein ratios. Any thoughts about that?
Oh, I do. I actually have a client currently who is vegan. She has been vegan for a very long time, and she is expert at food combining. She is also very well educated. I would never have taken her on as a client because she's vegan, except that she's a bit of a unicorn. I know lots of different vegans, but she is hyper aware of the extra nutrients, the optimized amino acid ratios. So she does different forms of tofu. She supplements a few amino acids. She does do a daily essential amino acid supplement. And it's a very specific one that she loves because the ratios of the essential amino acids are superb, as they need to be. So if you are a vegan or a heavy plant-based eater, you have to do some homework. You really do. You have to know how to combine your foods so that you're getting that full complement of amino acids. And it's even more than that. We need certain amounts of each amino acid. They are in a very specific ratio, and much of the research that's done on amino acids is done on animal-based proteins, which are in different ratios than plant-based proteins. So the conversation can go way out into the weeds, and I'm not even sure I'm sure I'm not. I know myself. I know my limits. I'm pretty well versed, but when we start talking about what does every amino acid do, each one has a function. And then they work synergistically together in different groupings and different ratios. So the science can get really deep. But suffice it to say, we need all the amino acids. So if you're a plant-based eater, you want to know if you're doing pea protein and hemp protein or pea protein and rice protein, that they each have all the amino acids, but they don't necessarily have quite the right amounts of each on their own. So a lot of plant-based proteins, like if you're doing a protein shake, you'll probably want to look for a protein powder that is a combination of, say, pea, rice, protein, or pea, rice, hemp, pumpkin, so that, and somebody has formulated an optimized amino acid ratio for you. It just takes so much brain power because I can't imagine living my life trying to do the right food combinations all day long, every day.
Yeah. Okay. So that is a great tip. And something I'll definitely be kind of thinking about as I kind of think about my meals. That is a great tip. So what's next? So we've talked about how much do we need. So what about, is all protein created equally? So is chicken as good as beef, as good as eggs? I mean, I think what I'm hearing you say, it definitely differs. It's different quality, and quality is important. So let's talk about quality, maybe.
So that's such a great question, and that's something that I'm really pleased you're highlighting that, because I think it matters so much. So, and it touches back on what we were just speaking about. So my big example that I give is protein in a bagel is not the same as protein in an egg. They will have different amino acid profiles, period. Now, like among the animal proteins, chicken, the amino acid profiles in chicken are going to be slightly different than the amino acid profiles in beef or lamb or bison or whatever other, or fish. But predominantly animal-based proteins have optimized ratios. And I believe like chicken maybe has a little more leucine in it. Leucine is a key amino acid. I talk about leucine all by itself quite a bit. I believe if you're this is my opinion. This is a very much an opinion-based statement I'm about to make, but I feel like if you are a vegan, vegetarian, heavy plant-based eater, it's an important consideration to look into maybe supplementing leucine.
Okay. Well, so now I'm going to have to ask why. Give us a little bit of why. Yeah. Why is that so important?
So in the world of amino acids and healthy skeletal muscle, leucine is the amino acid, and it's one of the essential ones. We have to consume it. Our body doesn't make it. We have to have a specific amount of leucine at a single meal in order to trigger this muscle protein synthesis, this process by which our body starts to make amino acids, and it starts to repair and rebuild our skeletal muscle and all our tissues. So leucine at a specific dose per meal, and that's just one amino acid. That's why I consume so much protein in the morning. I want to make sure if I eat that much protein, I know I'm getting that optimized amount of leucine and triggering that regeneration process in my body.
Yeah. I think I'm getting it.
Yes. So leucine is a star player. So if we have people listening that want to, go down these rabbit holes, leucine is a fascinating little amino acid. They all are, really. You can look. We could talk about each one of them individually in an entire podcast, because
well, maybe we'll put that on the slate maybe for another time and dive into amino acids. So, is there anything you want to say more? You want to say about the quality of protein, right? So, a bagel is not equivalent to an egg. What about protein bars, right? Because since I've been looking at you and trying to increase my protein, I have gone to protein bars, and I'll kind of take one to work with me, and I'll cut it into 4, like a 20-gram protein bar, this massive thing, and I'll kind of cut it into 4. So what do you think about things like protein bars and, alternative sources of protein?
So that can get a little bit dicey. Now there are a couple different reasons to have protein bars on hand. But I think for people that have blood sugar issues or are on the go, I think it's a nutrition source to keep on hand. It's much better than so many other things you could carry in your purse or your pack or your car or whatever, wherever you are on the go. I think a protein bar is much better than a candy bar. I mean, there's going to be more nutrition in it, but protein bars can also be somewhat problematic in that we don't know the amino acid profile unless it's stated on the bar or on the box that the bar came in, which isn't very common.
No, I don't think I've ever read amino acids. I do read the ingredients. I don't think I've ever read the amino acid profile on a protein bar. That's a great point.
So that for me, it's like, okay, I'm on the go. I am feeling a little low, like my blood sugar's a little low. I'm pretty busy some days, and I do carry protein bars. Protein bars typically always have something in them I wish they didn't. There's either some kind of sugar alcohol, or there's some kind of additive, there's some kind of seed oil, there's some kind of flavor. There's usually something in there that I don't love. But something I feel is important for people to know is if you're a person that starts to feel poorly with low blood sugar, we need to eat something. So low blood sugar can cause, if you're driving a car with low blood sugar, that's dangerous. If you have to travel and it's a long travel day and you just need what you need, sometimes we have to do what we have to do. So a protein bar is a great choice. So I carry them. I have different flavors, different brands. None of them are perfect. Some people carry meat sticks instead of protein bars. But for a more plant-based eater, some of these, there are some pretty tasty. and relatively, I always say relatively clean.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Mm-hmm.
still not met the perfect,
Yeah.
not met the perfect protein bar. But if you find one that you love, tell
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
always love to see what other people are finding. Does it agree with your stomach? Does it have 20 grams? I always look for 20 grams.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's been my standard. I've been trying to get a protein bar with 20 grams because that feels like, okay, at least that's something added to my puny protein profile. So what about some of the myths? Because again, in my world, it's like I've heard, okay, definitely the amounts, right? And then this
Right.
thing about too much protein is just going to make me bulk up and gain weight, and I'm going to build all this muscle, and like it's just. What about that? Is that something that we should be concerned about? How does that work?
That's a fabulous myth. I would love to, I don't know if debunk is the right word, but so protein have calories attached to it. So it's not so much that you're eating too many grams of protein, but food has calories attached to it. So if you're consuming too many calories and you're not doing anything, I mean, we are still in the realm of, and we will always be in the realm of calories in versus calories out.
Mm-hmm. Always.
So if you're consuming more calories than you are burning up, something's going to get stored, whether it's fat, carbs, or protein. Yes, you can eat too much protein for your energy exertion. Energy expenditure matters. And yes, so if you're eating if you're eating 300 calories in protein or 300 grams of protein, and that happens to be 3,000 calories for you, and you don't burn that many calories in a day, you can get stored as fat. But anything can get stored as fat if you eat too many calories.
Got it. So it's not just the protein grams, it's again, how you're getting that protein and making sure it's kind of balanced with your calorie profile as well.
Right. Now, here's an example. I could throw 50 grams of protein powder into a chocolate milkshake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And blend it up. And that milkshake might have full fat cream, all the good things in it, and lots of sugar and chocolate and calories. And so I could say, well, I got my 50 grams of protein, but it happened to be a 1,500 calorie drink.
Yeah.
That's how you store fat. If you're
Got
because that's very, very calorific. Now, when I make a protein shake, I use 2 scoops of protein for the 50 grams, and I mix it in water. I don't mix it in milk. I don't mix it. Sometimes I mix it in coffee. I have done that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not mixing it in something calorific.
Got it. Okay. So that's really helpful, right? So the protein in something like water or coffee. Oh, that sounds awful.
I have a little blender. Little blender, and my protein is sometimes I'll mix flavors. I'll put a little chocolate protein with a little vanilla protein, and I have a hand mixer, and it's a frother, and it's protein coffee.
Okay.
I enjoy that. It's a quick. I'm getting my coffee. I'm getting my protein. Yeah. It's fast, and I can get out the door.
That's a brilliant tip, right? That is a brilliant tip, right? To whip up something quick like that, take it with you, take it in the car, take it on the train, take it wherever, right?
Yes. And so sometimes, I don't want something cold. I like hot. So
so that's hot. You make that hot? Like hot?
I make that hot coffee. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Not cold and ice, but you make it hot. I just imagined it would be cold and ice, but no, it's hot. Wow.
I do it hot. You can totally do cold coffee. Absolutely. There's no reason you could throw yogurt in there with your protein powder. You can make a lovely cold protein smoothie. There are some Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is fabulous. It makes it thicker, creamier with your protein powder. You can throw ice cubes in there if you have a good blender. Now you've got something that's rather decadent if you have a really well flavored protein powder. I mean, it can be as decadent as you want it to be.
Yeah. But just watch those calories, right? Just watch that you're not kind of outsizing the calories when you're making your shake.
That's how I do it. As a small person who I have days where I'm very sedentary because I'm at the computer, then I have other days where I am literally working in the yard, hauling branches, going to the gym. I'm out on the hike, on the trail. There are days where I don't know if I sit down ever at all. And it's, really, really high energy expenditure days. So, they kind of do this. And as I go into winter, those really heavy duty summer days is when I have those really heavy duty energy expenditure because there are chores. I mean, I am the help at my house. So
yeah, me too. I totally get you.
But
so
calories matter. They do.
Calories do. Count. Yeah, they do count. But it's not just calories, right? Like you said, it's energy expenditure. It's like, are you having a day where you're sitting more, so you need less, right? You less calories in. But then even on those days where you need less, you still need that range of protein, right?
Right. No matter what. So I build, and this is how when I'm talking with a client, they're like, okay, how do I eat? What do I eat? How do I eat? How do I do this? What I say is start with your protein. So you look at what you want for breakfast, what you want for lunch, what you want for dinner. What protein are you going to choose? We figure that out first. And this isn't just my advice. I know other people give this advice. I see this advice from all my other protein warriors out there. We all do it pretty much the same.
Okay,
there's not really much variance. We figure out what protein we're having, how much we need to get our grams of protein. And then we're like, okay, how many calories is that, by the way? Oh, okay. And then like, okay, once I've eaten that, what's reasonable to put with it? I plan it first. I eat it first. And then what is reasonable and prudent for my known energy expenditure that day to pair with that protein at my breakfast, at my lunch, and at my dinner. But my proteins are the first things I plot out for every meal because it matters. Those calories are so valuable that I plan everything around them.
Wow.
And an easy rule of thumb is, so if your protein is very calorific, but you're still hungry, vegetables, like I don't even count calories in vegetables. If they're green, I don't even count them. It takes so much energy to digest them. So it's very common for me to have my beef or my chicken or my lamb or my fish, and then a rather ridiculous mountain of broccoli. Okay. Because that's I don't have to, in my world, I don't count it.
Yeah.
It's still a big meal. And I'm getting all the goodness from those vegetables. Polyphenols. There's something very, very, very valuable about the other foods, the other nutrients. It's not just protein, fat, and carbohydrates. There's a world of micronutrients swirling in amongst all those big macros are the micros. So, but that is how I do protein.
Okay, so I'm going to say that again. So pick your protein first, like plan your protein first, and then you said eat your protein first, right? So that's the first thing you eat as well, and then consider, your energy output, and that helps you decide what else to put on the plate. What about potatoes? Potatoes, rice? I guess it depends on your energy output.
It does, and I do eat both because I love potatoes and I love rice. I don't eat as much of that, and I don't eat those in the morning. So everybody has to choose what's right for them.
Okay.
But I eat almost carbless in the morning.
Okay.
Being a 60-year-old woman way down the road in menopause, I went through menopause when I was feeling terrible in my 40s. I was actually also going into menopause. I went in and I started, and then I was in. And our hormones change. So I'm trying to do that dance with insulin and glucose. I don't want to spike my glucose. And the more I've learned about that, the more I just have noticed that. And I am not the only one speaking about this. This is a big topic right now. What you eat in the morning sets the tone for your glucose and blood sugar the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So I like to be satiated. I like to stay full. I like not having blood sugar spikes. I notice them. I don't like them. So when I eat a heavy protein or a high, not heavy isn't the right word, high protein, even if it's just a protein shake, I don't get hungry. That protein is satiating. It's even more satiating if I add a couple eggs, because the fats from the eggs help to maintain that satiation until lunchtime. So adequate protein, a little healthy fat, and I consider animal fat healthy. That's another podcast.
Yeah.
I am not afraid of animal fat.
Okay.
I'm not afraid of dietary fat. If animal fat were as toxic as it's been made out to be, I think humanity would have died out.
Well, going back to your father, right, who was a meat and potatoes man. I mean, he ate meat, animal fat for his whole life, right?
His whole life.
Certainly, he wasn't being damaged by that, right? It seems.
No, he was not. He had health issues. He was he's gluten intolerant. He has what's known as celiac disease. And so for many years, he didn't eat any gluten, but he didn't discover he had that until he was 50. And I'm not even sure if it was celiac at this point or if it was just the way we started processing our wheat here in this country. And chemically, it may have been that. But he grew up, and after that diagnosis, he ate even more meat because he couldn't eat as much bread. There wasn't as much available in the grocery store here. So my mother just fed him more meat.
Okay.
That man ate more meat than anyone I've ever met. And yeah. And when people said, well, he had a stroke, that stroke was specific to a heart arrhythmia he didn't know he had. And some things he was doing in very, very hot weather without proper electrolytes, some very high stress situations in his life. So arrhythmia, AFib specifically, undiagnosed, and then a severe imbalance in electrolytes, which amplified his arrhythmias. So his heart wasn't pumping blood properly. It pooled, it clotted. And then when it finally gave a good solid push, it wasn't his meat eating.
Got it. The plaque build up or cholesterol or anything. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Okay. So we've covered a ton of tips and strategies. We've talked about some myths and misinformation. You've even given us some recipes, which is I really so appreciate with these shakes and things. Is there anything else you want to add? Anything I didn't ask? Anything else you want to share at this point around protein?
So I think what I would share is sort of like, why am I doing this? Why I work with women over 50 predominantly. And my mission is to help women understand that if they are getting adequate protein and moving their body with intention, and ideally lifting and pushing, pulling, lifting heavy things, and building and preserving the muscle tissue they have the opportunity to stay independent and healthy and autonomous for much, much longer, if not their entire life. I wish I could single-handedly put an end to frailty, to cognitive decline, to dependence and lack of mobility. When we lose our mobility, when we lose our powerful cognition, when we lose the ability to function freely using our own body, we lose independence. And I've seen what that looks like. Again, back to my father, I've seen what it can be like when you start falling. Mm-hmm. Because when you start falling and breaking bones, when you fall and you hurt yourself, mm-hmm. the statistics are not good.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So I've personally met women when my dad went into his first assisted living situation, and it's predominantly women, by the way, here in the US. It's probably 85% women in these care communities. And the women always say to me, well, I fell too many times and my family was afraid. And so that now I have to live here because I fall too much. Mm-hmm. So frailty is something I'm fighting against. Mobility is something I want more of. Strength is what saves our independence. And if we eat enough protein daily and we move our body with intention, we preserve our autonomy in health, life, and decision making. And I think it's such a simple thing. Right. If we do one thing, if we understand protein and what it does for us, and we learn to eat it and we learn to move our body, there's no age where it's too late. I'm 60. I didn't start till I was 53. I know 60 and 70-year-olds who had never been to a fitness class. They were never athletes. And you can get stronger at any age. And why not enhance that training with proper nutrition?
Yeah, which starts with protein, right? Which starts with the building.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. My ladies that I have worked with, my clients, I have one super rock star. She is a year older than I am. When she started with me, she started going to the gym, and she's been utilizing a personal trainer 4 days a week, lifting heavy things. She's not a tiny girl, but my goodness, her body, she's so strong. As she said, the number on the scale does not change, but her body shape, her body function, wow. She's almost 62, and she is stronger, she is fitter, she looks amazing. Wow. She sends me occasional videos while she's in the gym, and I'm like, it's shocking. It's amazing. Beautiful. So never think it's too late. She just committed to this process. Yeah. And it's, she's been at this for 6 months. It's maybe just over 6 months now. Wow.
That's huge.
It's a lifestyle.
It's just so inspirational, right? To know that at 60, 65, 70, you can still make these changes, right? It's never too late. I've written a book. It's actually called It Never Too Late, because it's never too late. It just really isn't.
Yes.
It's the attitude. We talked about that in the beginning. It's the food, the nutrition, the protein I'm learning about, and then the movement, right? It's vital. Yeah. Vital.
Yes. Yes. And people say, how do I start with movement? And that's a question I say, you start where you can. Yeah. Everyone is different. Yeah. And I would always say, if somebody's never been an athlete, please find a professional that you like, mm-hmm. that help you get started, because mm-hmm. we don't want to hurt ourselves. Yeah. It's always a good idea. I just love telling people, find someone you can work with. That can be online. Mm-hmm. There are great trainers online. Most communities have somebody who is highly trained, mm-hmm. and people are easy to find now. This is one of the beauties of technology.
Yeah, for sure.
So start where you can, start with what you can do, work from there, and it's never, you're never too old for anything.
Never too late, right?
If you believe you can. Yeah. And if you I go back to my dad, he never believed he couldn't.
Right.
He just assumed, right? He just took it.
Yes.
He just assumed he was just going to do this life thing, and he was going to live.
Right. We just have to make that, when you flip that switch or have that natural thought process of, well, why not? Why can't I?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we might have to start slower. It might take us a little longer, and that's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Right.
It's a process.
It's not a competition. It's not a competition, right? You just got to start where you can. Start where you can, for sure.
Right. And if I could say one other thing to women, it's not about looking like you are ready to be on stage or that you're ready for an audition. It's about what is your idea of your optimal self. And it's different for everybody. I see lots of extremes, and I'm so impressed with the work that some women can do or want to do. But I don't want women to fall into the trap of, okay, I have to eat this protein and I have to watch this and I must lift these weights, because if I don't look like her, I have failed.
Yeah.
Everybody has to decide for themselves. With health, mobility, and freedom for movement and living your best life on your terms, that's my goal for other women. Now, if women have goals beyond that, I'll support any woman in their efforts to achieve whatever their goal is. But I also don't want women to get too caught up or too intimidated to try, especially in this realm of AI technology, perfection. The social media scene it's a blessing, and it can be a little bit of a curse because there's so much perfection-oriented content.
Yeah, and the comparison is all just so overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah. So so that's why my message is about be the healthiest you that you can be. The protein and healthy skeletal muscle is what I know to be scientifically proven to work across all demographics. And if you have the will, if you want to, I don't care how old you are, you can start.
Never too late. Never too late.
Never too late. You wrote the right book. Your title, I love the title of that. That's just, it speaks to our demographic.
It does. And that book really spotlights, takes a deep dive into people that are really thriving later in life, right? You've got hikers and all kinds of people that are just starting later and just thriving, triathletes into their 80s. And it's an incredible read. If you haven't read it, there's a plug for the book. Go check it out.
Yeah, I want this book.
Inspirational.
On my nightstand.
Yeah. So last final question. If you had one piece of sage advice, right, to help people start to live intentionally, what would that be?
Oh, there's so many things I say to people. It almost varies depending on what somebody has just told me about themselves. But I guess if I had to boil it down to one thing, it's that, yes, you can do this. I'll go back to attitude. Decide for yourself that you're worthy of whatever it is you wish for. It will always come back to attitude. If you believe something is worth it, something is so appealing, I don't care how old you are, take the steps, do the things, because somebody's watching. Somebody, you may not realize, somebody's watching what we do. And we need more examples. We need more examples of, I think, women over 50 who have said, you know what? I think it's my turn.
Yeah.
I'm going to start something new today.
Yeah, I love that. And we do have a choice, right? We do have a choice every day. We have a choice to make that protein smoothie or eat that steak or the whatever, right? Get to the gym, take a walk. We do have, just got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. Yeah.
We do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess specifically, so if somebody said, what advice would you give when it comes to nutrition? So you can almost take it down to different topics, but when it comes to food, what would I say to people? If you're looking at a meal, if you're thinking about creating a meal, is it going to help you towards your goals, or is it going to keep you away from your goals?
I love that.
Is this helping me? I mean, this is, again, I did not invent this. Is this meal helping me? Or is this meal making it harder for me?
Yes, I love that.
And every day won't be perfect. That's okay. We are humans and it's a life and we have to live. But predominantly, let's make
really
the choices that help.
Decisions, right? That helpful, healthy decisions, right? We do get to do that. We do get to do. Yeah, that's awesome. Yes. So, Laurie, where can people find you if they're interested in connecting? Where can they find you?
I don't have a lot of social media channels, but I am on Instagram, which is where I post the majority of my content when it comes to living your best life. If you're a woman over 50, and I'm at Coach Laurie Martin on Instagram. I do have a website, and it is www.coach-lauriemartin.com. And it can tell you, if you go to the website, you will see how you can work with me if that's something that is interesting to someone. If they want to just get on my email list, I've started a blog, the Wellness Rant, I call it. It's a little bit, awesome. It's a little snarky, it's a little sarcastic, it's a lot of opinion based on what I see going on in the world around me with food and women. And, it's a little tongue in cheek, but sometimes I think I'm here to say the things that other people are thinking, but maybe don't have the platform or the guts to say.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you. And I would encourage.
My filters are off. I'm speaking freely at this point.
That's right. I totally hear you. Yes, it does. My age really does seem to do that, right? You've got you. A, I think we have more wisdom, but B, we do have more of a voice, right? We have more of a voice. We can have more of a voice for some reason. Yeah. So it's pretty exciting.
I think we've learned at this age that we can say whatever we are going to say. There's no point anymore in holding it all in.
None.
It's time. This is a really good time. This is a really good age to say. Because what we say is based on how many decades that we've already experienced.
Yeah. I mean, just I agree. This is a great age, like heading 55, 60, 65, kind of heading into that season. It's kind of a game changer. At least it has been for me, right? It just has been for me. So again, I would encourage people to just you have to take care of your health, your mental health, your physical health, your financial health. You've got to take care of it all. You've got to be in the driver's seat. You have to be in the driver's seat of the bus. Yeah.
Yes. The longer we can stay the driver of our own bus, truly, truly, the better our life is. And there's a lot of talk about longevity these days, and longevity is fantastic, but we have to plan for it.
Yeah.
I mean, longevity is no fun if you have no life and no freedom to choose how your life looks. So health, being healthy enough to live a long, long time on your terms is really important. So, sometimes I look at life and I try to reverse engineer it. So if I'm going to live to be 99 or 105, I talk to my future self and say, what should I be doing now so that when I'm 99, when I'm 105, I'm still living it on my terms? What do I need to do?
Yeah. For sure. Sure. Yeah. So this has been an amazing conversation. I thank you so much. I can't wait to get this out to people. I think it's just such great information. And let's make sure we do a follow-up part 2 of this as well.
I would love to. And I want to thank you for inviting me on. You're so easy to talk to. And I think it's in these conversations with women. It's when we exchange information. This is how women exchange information. I love your format, your podcast gives, and I know it's not always just women, but it's these conversations. This is how we learn. This is how we gather our information. So your podcast is such a vital and I feel vital format for this. And I thank you for doing this work. Thank you for having me on.
You are welcome. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And take care. And we'll definitely be back for a part 2. So stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. I truly appreciate you and your time. I love to hear from listeners. So connect with me at katechampionauthor.com. Remember to grab your free hiking guide. And please take a quick moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. Thanks so much. Take care. Until next time. Hey, me again. Just a reminder, this podcast should not be considered professional advice. It's also not a substitute for mental, physical, or any other healthcare-related treatment. For any questions about your condition and or concerns, please contact a fully licensed healthcare professional. Thank you.